Dr. Jack Reynolds stood frozen before the holographic display, his coffee cup suspended halfway to his lips as he watched the footage for the fourth time. The crystalline beings moved with terrible grace, their translucent bodies refracting the dying sun of Colony Delta 7 as they systematically hunted down the colonists. What struck him wasn't their efficiency. He'd seen plenty of apex predators at work during his years as a xenobiologist. No, what chilled him to the bone was their methodology. "Run it again, Araya," he commanded the lab's eye. "Focus on the pack dynamics of the third wave." The footage reset, revealing the horror in pristine 4D detail. The crystalline hunters, Nexarians, according to the limited intel, didn't just kill. They herded. They corralled. They turned the entire colony into a twisted game preserve. Pause. Jack's voice cracked. That's not instinctive behavior. They're adapting their strategy mid-hunt. He reached for his tablet, fingers flying across the surface as he annotated his observations. 20 years of studying alien predatory species had taught him to recognize patterns, but this was different. The Nexarians combined the pack coordination of wolves with the problem-solving abilities of dolphins, all wrapped in a crystalline exoskeleton that could deflect most conventional weapons. Dr. Reynolds, his lab assistant, Kevin, poked his head through the door. "The Joint Chiefs are ready for your briefing." Jack grabbed his data chip and straightened his wrinkled lab coat. "They're not going to like what I have to say." The briefing room was packed with brass when he arrived. Admiral Chen's scowl deepened as Jack fumbled with the holographic projector. "Doctor, we don't have time for another one of your xenobiology lectures. The Nexarian Empire has already conquered 3 systems in the past month. With all due respect, Admiral," Jack projected the footage, "we need to understand what we're dealing with. These aren't just aliens with advanced technology. They're the product of millions of years of evolutionary pressure as apex predators. Every aspect of their society, their technology, even their architecture is built around the hunt." He switched to thermal imaging. "Look at their body structure. Those crystalline formations aren't decorative. They're heat sinks. They can track prey through thermal signatures while masking their own. Their entire nervous system is optimized for predation." General Martinez leaned forward. "Cut to the chase, Doctor. How do we stop them?" "That's just it." Jack pulled up his analysis. "We're approaching this all wrong. The Nexarians have never lost a conquest because every species they've encountered has tried to outfight them. But look at this." He switched to footage of their ships. Even their vessels are designed like orbital hunting blinds. They're so confident in their superiority as predators that they've become predictable. The room erupted in overlapping voices until Admiral Chen's fist crashed down. "Enough. Doctor, unless you have a solution, this meeting is over." Jack took a deep breath. "We don't need to be better predators than them, Admiral. We need to be better hunters. There's a difference." He projected a new image, ancient cave paintings showing human hunters taking down mammoths. Humanity didn't become Earth's dominant species by being the strongest or fastest. We did it by understanding predator behavior better than the predators themselves. The room fell silent as Jack continued. "The Nexarians are completely unprepared for us because they've never encountered a species that turned hunting into a science. They don't understand conservation, wildlife management, or ecosystem control. They're pure predators who've never had to adapt." Admiral Chen's scowl softened slightly. "Go on." "Their preliminary scans of Earth probably showed them our cities, our technology. But I bet they completely ignored our history of hunting techniques, our wildlife preserves, our understanding of predator psychology." Jack allowed himself a small smile. They think they're approaching a prey species. Instead, they're about to encounter something they've never faced before. Predators who hunt for sport, study, and science rather than pure instinct. The Admiral studied the images for a long moment. "You have 48 hours to develop a strategic response plan. Don't make me regret this, Reynolds." As Jack hurried back to his lab, His tablet chimed with a priority alert. The Nexarian fleet had just been detected at the edge of the Kuiper Belt. Humanity's greatest test as hunters was about to begin. Colonel Ashley "Hawk" Thompson stood at the New Montana Colony's command center, her weathered face illuminated by dozens of tactical displays. The Nexarian fleet hung in high orbit like crystalline daggers catching starlight. Their arrival message still echoed through the chamber. "Submit to the hunt or face extinction." "Ma'am," Lieutenant Rogers called out. "They're broadcasting their ritual hunt challenge on all frequencies. You should see this." The main screen flickered to life, showing an Nexarian warprints. His crystalline form rippled with bioluminescent patterns that their xenolinguists translated as superiority markings. The alien's message was clear: surrender now and die quickly, or resist and suffer. Ashley's response was unexpected. She laughed. "Send them our reply package," she ordered, a predatory grin spreading across her face. "The one we prepared after Dr. Reynolds' briefing." The transmission began. Footage of human big game hunters tracking lions in Africa, rodeo riders wrestling bulls, extreme sports athletes diving with great white sharks. Each clip carefully chosen to showcase humanity's casual dominance over Earth's deadliest creatures. "Add the historical archives too," Ashley commanded. "Let's show them what they're really dealing with." The transmission continued with cave paintings of prehistoric humans hunting mammoths, Roman gladiators facing tigers, and Native American buffalo hunters. Centuries of humanity turning predation into sport, art, and science. The Nexarian response was immediate. Their war prince's crystalline form flashed angry patterns of red and orange. "You dare mock the sacred hunt? Your species will suffer for this insult." "They took the bait," Ashley muttered, then keyed her comm. "All units, Operation Reverse Hunt is go." They're reacting exactly as the doc predicted. Pure predator instinct, no tactical consideration. Across the colony, carefully concealed defensive positions hummed to life. Ashley had spent weeks studying Earth's most successful hunting techniques, adapting them to planetary scale. The colony itself was now one massive trap, designed to exploit the Nexarians' predatory nature. "First wave incoming," Rogers reported. "They're deploying hunting parties in standard formation." "Wait, something's wrong. Their patterns are erratic." Ashley nodded. "That's because their sensors are picking up heat signatures from our decoy camps. Those crystalline bodies of theirs are built to detect prey through thermal imaging. So we're giving them exactly what they expect to see." The Nexarian hunting parties split into smaller groups, each pursuing what they thought were clusters of fleeing colonists. Instead, they were being drawn into carefully prepared killing zones, each designed to counter their supposedly superior hunting abilities. They're so convinced of their dominance that they never considered they might be the ones being hunted, Ashley commented, watching the tactical display. "Status of the civilian evacuation. Complete, Mom. The underground bunkers are sealed and thermally shielded. As far as their sensors can tell, we're scattered and running scared." The first Nexarian hunting party reached their target zone. They found what appeared to be a group of terrified colonists huddled in a makeshift shelter. The aliens moved in for the kill, their crystalline forms vibrating with anticipation. That's when the trap was sprung. Hidden sonic emitters activated, broadcasting frequencies that shattered their crystalline resonance patterns. The terrified colonists turned out to be holographic decoys, and the real humans emerged from camouflaged positions with specially designed weapons. "Status report," Ashley demanded, watching multiple engagements unfold simultaneously. "First wave is in complete disarray," Rogers reported with satisfaction. "Their pack coordination breaks down completely when they can't trust their sensory input. They're actually running into each other trying to escape the sonic attack." Ashley keyed her comm again. "All units, execute Phase 2. Let's show these apex predators what happens when they hunt something that's been hunting back longer than their species has existed." Above them, the Nexarian fleet shifted position, preparing to launch their second wave. But this time, there was hesitation in their movement. For the first time in their history of conquest, they faced prey that didn't act like prey at all. The War Prince's next transmission contained something new in its translated tone. Uncertainty. What manner of prey are you? Ashley's response was simple. Who said we were prey? Mike Grizzly Davidson crouched in the observation post, his trained eyes scanning the crystalline forms moving through the valley below. 20 years as a park ranger handling everything from grizzly bears to mountain lions had taught him patience. The Nexarians were good, but they were about to learn they weren't the only predators who knew how to hunt. Echo Team, status report, he whispered into his comm. Pit traps armed and masked. Grizzly. Thermal signatures are masked just like you taught us, same way you used to track those wolf packs in Yellowstone. Mike allowed himself a grim smile. The Nexarians had already lost 3 hunting parties to his modified pit traps, each one designed based on ancient mammoth hunting techniques, but updated with modern materials and technology. The aliens were learning, but not fast enough. They're moving into the kill zone, his spotter, Jenny Martinez, reported. She'd been his best tracker back in Montana before the colony recruited them. Main groups following the game trail, just like you said they would. Predators always take the path of least resistance when stalking prey, Mike replied, watching through his binoculars. These crystals think they're so superior, but they're falling for the same tricks that worked on Earth predators for thousands of years. The lead Nexarian hunter paused, its crystalline form refracting the morning sunlight. It was testing the air, using sensory inputs that human scientists still didn't fully understand. But Mike understood enough. He'd studied their behavior patterns like he used to study bear migrations. Now, he commanded. The valley erupted in chaos. Hidden sonic emitters activated, disrupting the Nexarians' sensory crystals. The aliens staggered, their coordinated hunting formation breaking apart. But that was just the beginning. Release the drones. Dozens of thermal signature drones launched from concealed positions, each one programmed to mimic the heat pattern of human prey. The Nexarians' hunting instincts took over, exactly as Mike had planned. They split up, each hunter pursuing what it thought was easy prey. Just like herding cats, Mike muttered, triggering the second phase. The drones led the aliens straight toward what appeared to be a narrow canyon pass. In reality, it was a modernized version of the buffalo jumps used by Native American hunters centuries ago. First runners approaching the drop point, Jenny reported tensely. Their backup units are moving exactly where you predicted, using the high ground to cut off escape routes. Mike keyed his comm. All units, execute Stampede Protocol. Let's show these crystal cats what happens when they hunt the wrong prey. The ground beneath the Nexarians' feet suddenly shifted. What looked like solid rock was actually a carefully constructed ramp system. The aliens, their crystalline forms too rigid to adapt quickly, tumbled into the prepared containment zones below. Electromagnetic nets. Now. The nets deployed, specially designed to interfere with the strange crystalline biology of their opponents. The trapped Nexarians thrashed uselessly, their sophisticated hunting abilities rendered useless by simple tactical planning. Sir, Jenny's voice was urgent. We've got a problem. One of their elite hunters, it's not falling for the traps. It's hunting us. Mike raised his binoculars again. Through the chaos below, he spotted it. A larger Nexarian, its crystal structure more complex than the others. It was methodically working its way toward their position, using cover and concealment like a professional. Finally, Mike grinned, shouldering his custom rifle. Been waiting for one of them to show some real hunting skill. Jenny, remember that mountain lion that stalked us for 3 days in the Bitterroots? The one you ended up tagging for the research program. How could I forget? Same principle applies. When you're dealing with a smart predator, sometimes you have to. He paused, making minute adjustments to his position. Let it think it's winning. The elite Nexarian hunter was close now, moving with deadly purpose. It thought it was stalking vulnerable prey. Instead, it was walking into the most basic hunting principle of all, the counter-ambush. Mike touched his comm one last time. All units, execute Contact Protocol Delta. Let's teach these overconfident crystals why humans have been Earth's apex predators for the last 100,000 years. The real hunt was about to begin. Brady Williams couldn't help but grin as the Nexarian interrogators circled him. Their crystalline forms pulsed with frustrated patterns of light. They'd been at this for hours, and his continued amusement only aggravated them further. "You will explain human hunting methodologies," the lead interrogator demanded, its translated voice crackling with authority. "How did mere prey species develop such effective countermeasures?" Brady leaned back in his restraints, as casual as if he were sitting in his favorite hunting blind. "You know what's funny? My grandfather would have loved this. He spent 60 years tracking mountain lions in the Rockies. You remind me of them, all grace and power, thinking you're the biggest bad in the valley." The Nexarian commander slammed a crystalline appendage into the table. "You mock us even in captivity. Your species cannot match our hunting prowess." "See, that's your problem right there," Brady said, shifting slightly to get a better look at the room's layout. "You think hunting is just about being the biggest and baddest. Let me tell you about my first mountain lion hunt with Grandpa." The aliens exchanged confused patterns of light as Brady launched into his story. They didn't realize he was mapping their ship's interior through the vibrations in his restraint chair, a trick he'd learned tracking elk through canyon acoustics. There I was, 12 years old, thinking we were gonna chase down this huge cat. "But Grandpa," he says to me, "Brady, boy, you don't hunt a lion. You learn to think like one." Spent 3 days just studying tracks, scat, and behavior patterns. By the time we caught up to that cat, we knew her better than she knew herself. A junior Nexarian shifted uncomfortably. "This is irrelevant. Your primitive hunting techniques." "Primitive?" Brady laughed again. "While you folks were evolving those fancy crystal bodies, we were turning hunting into a science. Every trap you've fallen into, every tactic that's got you spooked. That's centuries of human innovation. Hell, half the techniques your troops got wrecked by were originally designed for wildlife photography." The commander leaned in close, its faceted surface reflecting Brady's amused expression. "You were captured. Your superior knowledge did not save you." "Captured?" Brady's grin widened. "Remember what I said about my grandpa? About learning to think like your prey? Who says I didn't let you catch me?" Alarm patterns rippled through the Nexarian's crystalline forms as realization dawned. While they'd been interrogating him, Brady had been conducting his own intelligence gathering. Every shift in his position, every seemingly casual story, had been carefully calculated to map their movements, understand their ship's layout, and analyze their behavioral patterns. "You know what else Grandpa taught me?" Brady continued, noting how the guards had unconsciously shifted into a defensive formation. "The difference between hunting and trapping. See, hunting's active. You chase down your prey. But trapping, that's about making your prey come to you." The ship's alarms suddenly blared. The commander's form flashed urgent patterns as reports flooded in. Human forces were attacking key points throughout the vessel, their assault patterns matching exactly the blind spots in Nexarian sensory capabilities. "That's another thing about humans," Brady added casually, his restraints already half disengaged through techniques he perfected escaping from backcountry emergencies. "We don't just hunt alone. We hunt in packs." The commander whirled back to face him, but Brady was already moving. All those hunting stories hadn't just been conversation. They were deliberately chosen to provoke specific reactions, teaching him exactly how Nexarian crystalline bodies moved and responded. "Your species," the commander started, but Brady cut him off. "Turned every predator on Earth into either food, fur, or family. Yeah, we did. Wolves became dogs. Big cats became circus attractions and bears. We put them on TV shows. Face it, you're not dealing with prey. You're dealing with the species that got so good at hunting, we had to invent conservation just to keep things sporting. As human breach teams burst through the ship's access points, Brady reflected that his grandfather would indeed have loved this. The greatest hunt in human history wasn't about humans being hunted. It was about humans teaching the galaxy's apex predators what it meant to be prey. "Check," he muttered, watching the Nexarians' perfect hunting formation crumble. "Your move, Crystal Cats." Lisa Tinker Martinez stood in her command center, surrounded by screens showing thermal imagery, motion tracking data, and live feeds from thousands of automated defense systems. What the Nexarians saw as primitive technology, she saw as generations of hunting innovation refined into deadly precision. "They're approaching Sector 7, her AI assistant reported. Hunting formation matches predicted patterns based on previous encounters. Lisa's fingers danced across the holographic interface, adjusting the sensitivity of her motion trackers. Originally designed for wildlife photography, now repurposed for warfare. Just like clockwork. Predators really don't change their stripes, do they? The main screen showed an Nexarian hunting party moving through what they thought was a blind spot in the colony's defenses. Their crystalline forms shimmered with confidence, unaware that every step was being tracked by systems that had cut their teeth on Earth's wiliest predators. "You know what's funny?" Lisa addressed her team. "These guys think they invented pursuit predation. Meanwhile, we've got satellite systems that were originally made to track whale migrations across entire oceans." Her second-in-command, Marcus, chuckled. "Should we show them how we used to track wolf packs in Yellowstone?" "Better." Lisa's grin was predatory. "Let's show them what happened when we combined those tracking systems with modern defense tech. Activate the Hunter Protocol." Across the battlefield, hundreds of automated systems hummed to life. Each one represented a different aspect of human hunting technology, from simple motion sensors based on century-old game cameras to sophisticated AI systems that could predict prey movement patterns. The Nexarian hunting party froze as their sensors detected something wrong. But it was too late. Deploying sonic nets, Lisa commanded. The air rippled with invisible waves of sound, carefully tuned to the resonant frequency of Nexarian crystal structures. What had started as simple tripwires for deer cameras had evolved into a web of detection and engagement zones that no predator could navigate undetected. "Mom," Marcus called out. "They're adapting, trying to use their secondary sensory organs to bypass our sonic interference." Lisa nodded, just like when we had to upgrade our wildlife cameras because bears figured out the infrared triggers. Initiate countermeasure sequence Delta. The battlefield transformed. Every piece of technology humans had ever developed to study, track, or hunt predators came into play. Thermal cameras that could spot a mountain lion at midnight. Motion sensors sensitive enough to detect a snake slithering through grass. Satellite tracking systems that could follow a tagged wolf across continents. "They're broadcasting something," Marcus reported. "Looks like they're calling for reinforcements." Perfect. Lisa activated her masterpiece, a system that turned the Nexarians' own hunting instincts against them. "Remember how we used to use recorded prey calls to lure predators into camera range? Same principle, much bigger scale. The reinforcement call, intercepted and analyzed, was duplicated and broadcast from multiple locations. The incoming Nexarian forces, responding to their species' deeply ingrained hunting instincts, split up to chase what they thought were multiple groups of weakened prey. Their tactical coordination is breaking down," Marcus observed. "They're reverting to pure predator behavior patterns." Lisa watched as the Nexarian hunters fell into one trap after another, each one sprung by technology that had been perfected tracking Earth's deadliest predators. That's because they never had to evolve beyond being apex predators. They never had to adapt their hunting techniques because nothing ever hunted them back. A priority alert flashed across her screens. The Nexarians were attempting to deploy their own hunting technology. Lisa actually laughed out loud. "They're trying to jam our systems using techniques designed to confuse prey species senses," she explained to her confused team. They still don't get it. Every piece of tech we're using was designed to outsmart predators smarter than them. Earth's predators had millions of years to evolve countermeasures against human hunting techniques. These crystals, they've had it too easy for too long. As another Nexarian hunting party fell into her carefully laid electronic trap, Lisa couldn't help but think how far humans had come. From simple pit traps to satellite tracking systems, from spears to sonic weapons. While the Nexarians had relied on their natural weapons, humanity had turned hunting into a science. Check your target selection, she reminded her team. Remember, we're not just hunters anymore. We're conservationists. Let's teach these overconfident crystals the difference. Major Tom Ghost Harrison stood in the Environmental Control Center, watching his masterpiece unfold. The battlefield before him wasn't just a war zone. It was a carefully crafted psychological weapon, designed to exploit millions of years of predatory instinct. Neural pattern analysis confirms it, sir, Lieutenant Wei reported. The Nexarians' stress responses are off the charts. They're experiencing something they've never felt before. Fear, Tom said quietly, adjusting the environmental controls. Pure, primal fear. The kind that every predator has programmed into their DNA. But these crystals never had to face it. Until now. The battlefield was a masterwork of psychological warfare. Every aspect had been designed based on decades of predator behavior studies, creating an environment that triggered the deepest, most primitive responses in the Nexarian nervous system. Activating Sequence 3, Tom commanded. Let's show them what Earth's apex predators felt when they first encountered human hunters. A holographic projector sparked to life. Suddenly, the battlefield was filled with shadows that moved just wrong, sounds that hit frequencies that set crystalline nerves on edge. Everything that made the Nexarians perfect predators was being turned against them. Sir, their lead hunter is displaying erratic behavior patterns, Wei noted, pointing to a thermal signature that showed the alien's crystalline structure vibrating with stress. The biological readings match what we see in cornered predators. Tom nodded, making minute adjustments to the environmental matrix. That's because we're not fighting them like prey would. We're hunting them like humans always have, by understanding predator psychology better than the predators themselves. The battlefield transformed again. Now it mimicked the ancient hunting grounds where humanity had first learned to turn fear into a weapon. The fog rolled in, carefully calibrated to refract light in ways that confused Nexarian sensory crystals. The ground itself seemed to shift, using acoustic technology originally developed to study earthquake effects on wildlife. They're trying to coordinate, Wei reported, watching the Nexarian hunting parties attempt to maintain formation. But their instincts are fighting against their training. Of course they are, Tom replied, activating the next phase. Because we're not just creating fear, we're creating confusion. Everything they evolved to trust as hunters is lying to them. The air filled with pheromone analogs, carefully synthesized to match the stress signals of Nexarian biology. The aliens' own bodies were betraying them, responding to chemical signals they couldn't consciously process. It was a technique borrowed from studying how prey species used scent markers to avoid predators. Incoming transmission from their command ship, Wei announced. They're asking what we are. Tom allowed himself a grim smile. Send them the package. Across every Nexarian communication channel, images began to play. Humans hunting the greatest predators Earth had ever produced. Lions, tigers, bears, apex predators that had ruled their domains for millions of years, all ultimately mastered by human ingenuity. Their neural patterns are spiking, Wei reported, excitement creeping into his voice. The historical footage is triggering some kind of primitive response. Because they're seeing their future, Tom explained. Every predator species on Earth eventually learned to fear humans. Not because we were stronger or faster, but because we understood them. We learned their patterns, their instincts, their weaknesses, and now we're doing the same to the Nexarians. A new alert flashed across the screens. The Nexarian forces were falling back, Their perfect hunting formations dissolved into chaos. But Tom wasn't done yet. "Activate the final sequence," he ordered. "Show them what happens when the prey learns to hunt the hunter." The battlefield erupted in a symphony of sensory warfare. Every trick humanity had learned from studying predator psychology, every technique developed for wildlife management, every insight gained from turning Earth's greatest hunters into companions. All of it focused on a single goal: teaching the galaxy's apex predators what it meant to be afraid. "Remember," Tom told his team as they watched the Nexarians retreat, their crystalline forms flashing patterns of terror and confusion. "The greatest weapon humans ever developed wasn't our technology. It was our understanding of what makes a predator tick. And these crystals, they're about to get one hell of an education." Kate, Scout, Anderson stood at the edge of the temporary wildlife sanctuary they'd established within the colony, her hand resting on the head of Shadow, her timber wolf companion. The Nexarian delegation approached cautiously, their crystalline forms reflecting confusion at the sight before them. "Welcome to Sanctuary 1, Kate announced, her voice carrying the calm authority of someone who'd spent decades working with Earth's apex predators. "I believe it's time we had a proper conversation about what it means to be a true hunter." The lead Nexarian, their war prince, stepped forward. "You summon us to witness domesticated predators. This is an abomination." Kate smiled, scratching behind Shadow's ears. The massive wolf, who could take down a moose single-handedly, leaned into her touch like a puppy. "What you call an abomination, we call the greatest achievement in human history. Shadow here is a descendant of creatures that once competed with humans for survival. Now, he's family." She whistled sharply, and from the tree line emerged her full team. Rangers walked alongside tigers, falconers with eagles perched on their arms, and handlers with bears following their commands. Each animal represented a former apex predator that humans had not just defeated, but understood deeply enough to forge a partnership. "Impossible," the war prince's translator crackled. "These are apex predators. They cannot be controlled." "Controlled?" Kate laughed, leading them toward the sanctuary's main compound. "That's where you're making the same mistake your entire species has made. We don't control them. We understand them. We learned their languages, their social structures, their needs. We became better predators by learning to think like them." Shadow suddenly tensed, his ears pricking forward. Kate raised her hand, and the entire human team froze in perfect coordination with their animal partners. A young Nexarian had moved aggressively, its crystalline form pulsing with hunting instincts. "Stand down," Kate commanded, not to her team, but to the Nexarian, "unless you want a practical demonstration of why challenging us is a bad idea." The war prince pulled his subordinate back, crystal structures flickering with what their xenobiologists had identified as fear patterns. "Your species, you hunt for sport, yet preserve your prey. You dominate apex predators, yet treat them as equals. What are you?" Kate motioned to her team, and they began a demonstration that had been centuries in the making. Rangers worked in perfect harmony with their wolf packs, demonstrating hunting techniques that combined human strategy with lupine instinct. Falconers launched their birds in complex aerial ballets that showed mastery of three-dimensional combat. Bear handlers demonstrated how humans had turned raw power into precision instruments. "We are what happens when prey evolves to understand predators better than they understand themselves," Kate explained, watching the Nexarians' reactions carefully. "Every animal you see here represents a species that once thought they were the perfect hunters. Each one learned, as your people are learning now, that true mastery of the hunt isn't about being the strongest or fastest." She led them to the sanctuary's research center, where displays showed the history of human-predator relationships, from ancient cave paintings of hunters working with wolves to modern wildlife conservation programs. The story of humanity's unique relationship with predators unfolded. "Your civilization is built on the idea that being an apex predator makes you superior," Kate continued. Ours is built on the understanding that true superiority comes from being able to be both predator and protector. We don't just hunt, we maintain entire ecosystems. Shadow suddenly perked up, and Kate noted how the Nexarians flinched at the wolf's movement. With a few hand signals, she directed her entire team into a complex maneuver, human and animal partners moving as one. The display of coordination and trust was more devastating to the Nexarians' worldview than any weapon could have been. So, Kate concluded, facing the war prince directly, the question isn't whether your species will submit to humans. The question is, are you ready to learn what it truly means to be an apex species? Because we're not just hunters anymore. We're the guardians of every predator species we've ever encountered. And we're pretty good at teaching old predators new tricks. The war prince's crystalline form rippled with patterns they'd never seen before, understanding dawning at last about humanity's true nature. James "Buck" Cooper stood before the assembled Nexarian High Command in Yellowstone National Park, Earth's oldest wildlife preserve. The crystalline aliens watched in stunned silence as a grizzly bear fished for salmon mere yards away, completely ignoring the gathered delegation. "Gentlemen," Buck began, his weathered face creasing with a smile, "welcome to what we call a balanced ecosystem, something your empire has never understood, until today." The Nexarian Supreme Hunter, their highest authority, moved forward. Its crystalline form reflected the morning sun, creating prismatic patterns across the gathering. "You brought us to Earth to witness primitive wilderness." "Primitive," Buck chuckled, gesturing to the hidden sensor arrays and monitoring stations scattered throughout the park. "This wilderness represents the most sophisticated wildlife management system ever created. We maintain perfect predator-prey balances across thousands of species, not through dominance, but through understanding." A wolf pack emerged from the tree line, pups in tow. The Nexarians tensed, but Buck remained relaxed. Those wolves once competed with humans for territory and food. Now, we track their movements by satellite, manage their breeding programs, and ensure their hunting grounds remain sustainable. "This is weakness," one of the junior commanders declared. "Apex predators should not require management." "Really?" Buck pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's historical extinction events. "See, that's what we used to think too. Then we nearly hunted everything to extinction. Turned out, being the galaxy's best hunters meant learning when not to hunt." The display shifted to show modern conservation projects, breeding programs for endangered species, habitat restoration initiatives, and complex predator-prey balance systems. Each image struck at the core of Nexarian beliefs about predation and dominance. "Your empire spans 50 star systems," Buck continued, leading them along a wildlife trail. "In each one, you've hunted the local species to near extinction. You call it natural law. We call it poor resource management." They reached a ridge overlooking a vast valley. Below, herds of bison grazed, while bears and wolves moved through their territories in a perfectly orchestrated dance of predator and prey. Every movement was monitored, every interaction recorded and analyzed. "This," Buck gestured to the scene, "is true power, not just killing prey, but understanding the entire system that makes the hunt possible. We turned our greatest hunting grounds into preservation spaces, not because we got soft, but because we got smart." The Supreme Hunter's crystalline form flickered with complex patterns. "Your species confounds us. You possess the galaxy's most efficient hunting techniques, yet you choose restraint. You domesticate apex predators, yet maintain their wild cousins. You are prey species that became predators, yet you protect the very creatures that once hunted you." Buck nodded, reaching into his pocket for the final piece of his presentation. "Because we learned something your species never had to learn. The true test of an apex species isn't how well it hunts, it's how well it maintains the balance." He activated a small device, and the air filled with holographic projections of proposed Nexarian wildlife preserves. Each one showed how their existing hunting grounds could be transformed into sustainable ecosystems, managed with human conservation techniques. "So here's our offer," Buck said, facing the Supreme Hunter. "We'll teach you everything we know. How to maintain prey populations, how to hunt sustainably, how to turn pure predation into something greater. In return, your empire adopts Earth's conservation protocols." The Nexarians huddled together, their crystalline forms vibrating with intense communication patterns. Finally, the Supreme Hunter stepped forward. "You would teach us preservation." The concept seemed to physically pain it. "After we tried to hunt your species to extinction." Buck smiled, pointing to the bear that had successfully caught its salmon. "That grizzly's ancestors tried to eat my ancestors. Now we ensure their species survives. That's what makes humans different. We don't hold grudges against good hunters. We just teach them better ways to hunt." As the sun set over Yellowstone, the Supreme Hunter made history. It bowed to Buck, a gesture unprecedented in Nexarian culture. "We accept your terms, human conservator. Teach us your ways." "First lesson," Buck said, leading them back toward the visitor center, "starts with something we call the circle of life. Trust me, you're going to love this. The age of pure predation was over. The era of human conservation had begun."